Hi, and welcome to another episode of Fave 5 from Fans, the podcast where we explore all things favorite. As you might notice, we're not Zooming from the Plastic Microphone Studios. No, today I have traveled the many lands to get to Ragley?
Yeah, Ragley.
Ragley. And I have Darren Lanchbury.
Correct.
Oh, look at me.
Well done.
I knew I could speak British, right? Who has invited
Good Cajun name.
Thank you. He's invited me into this incredible pub in his own home that we're going to talk about when we get to our break. But for now, I want to introduce him and first of all, thank you for opening up not only your bar, but your whole house to us. It's great.
Thank you for inviting me on your show. It's a pleasure.
Wow. I thought I'd be like, oh, this guy's going to have some cool stuff when he gets to his house. He's going to have a couple of beers or whatnot, but oh my God, we're gonna have a whole nother episode because there's so much to talk about. After we talk about our Fave 5 British sci-fi films, then we're going to have a complete disarray episode where we're just going to talk about British sci-fi in general. What it was like for him to grow up over there, having his own stuff, and having the stuff coming over from Hollywood. So looking forward to that. Obviously, I usually ask my guests at this point, why did we pick this subject? Why are we talking about British sci-fi films, TV series?
Well, obviously, number one, because I'm A, British, and B,
That's
I'm
it!
a complete sci-fi nerd and grew up that way. I mean, sci-fi and horror was always my thing when I was a kid. I loved old horror movies, the old black and white stuff, and I loved sci-fi movies as well. So that's how they sort of meshed together.
And I just stumbled upon the fact that you liked them, not the fact that you were wearing a prisoner cosplay and one of, 4 people that got you that day?
Yeah, but I like to go out with that obscure stuff because we met at CypherCon, and so I had the 1960 series, The Prisoner, and it starred Patrick McGoohan, and I'm wearing a costume because I like to pull out some weird stuff that people aren't going to recognize, and I love it when somebody actually says, "Oh my God, you're him," and and that was one of the things that was sort of called over. To get the BC in you, which was the signal they had. So
I knew I'd found one of my people, even though he came from across the pond, and we started talking, and I just really got into the idea that we both love sci-fi, we both love the classic horrors, but we did literally come from across the pond from each other. So I'm really looking forward to finding out because, for us, we have, PBS, Public Broadcasting Systems over here. And so on Saturday nights, this is when they used to play all of the British stuff. Right. So that's where a lot of my original introduction to British sci-fi. But from already what he's shown me, you guys just don't miss the complete disarray episode because we got so much stuff over here. It's amazing. But what I've done is I've asked Darren to take a look at all of his favorite shows from Britain. They may have some American actors, but it was filmed in Britain and it's people production. Those were all British. So he's got his list of his 5 favorites, and I've always asked the guest if you'd like to have some honorable mentions, and I believe you chose a couple of honorable mentions as well.
All right, so I've got
a
couple of strange shows there, which hopefully people will know.
Well, good. Okay, well, I think if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and get down and hear what your 2 honorable mentions are.
Oh, we'll start with the honorable mentions. Okay, my first one is going to be a show called Sapphire and Steel.
Okay, yeah.
This starred Joanna Lumley, who a lot of
the
people,
lovely Joanna Lumley,
which I think most famous now for Absolutely Fabulous as the drunken Patsy. But from my childhood point of view, she was in a show called The Avengers, or The New Avengers with Patrick Steed, not to be confused with the movies.
Except for the movie with Ralph Fiennes, because that is the same Avengers, but
that's
we
right.
don't talk about that movie either.
Yeah, that's right. So she was the long-legged sidekick who could beat the living daylights out of any baddie.
So you'll have to be a little more specific because most of his side ladies
do the same. But she was the blonde one then.
Yes,
let's be more
okay,
specific.
there we go.
But she did this show called Sapphire and Steel with Ducky from CIS. Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Thingy, what's his name?
It's
there he is. He's on the book over there. David McCallum.
David McCallum, the Invisible Man.
That's and I got that one on the DVD shelf as well. I picked that up. So anyway, she did the show with him, and it was a very strange show. They put it on ITV, which is in Britain what ran against the BBC. So we had Doctor Who running on BBC, and they came up with this show, Sapphire and Steel, and it's two agents, and they mysteriously appear, but they're from a higher power, if you like, almost a godlike power.
Okay.
And they are made from elemental materials, and they are sent to Earth or any other planet, but the adventures are always on Earth, the ones we see. And they're there to combat time, because time is a sentient creature that is trying to break through weaknesses in the fabric of the space-time continuum to cause mayhem and destruction, because it feeds off that.
Right.
So they're time agents. They come in, try and fix whatever the problem is before it runs amok. So they have these, the shows were called assignments, and they'd have multiple episodes to each assignment. The one that most people remember is one in a railway station where there's a ghost hunter who thinks he's tracking down a ghost of an old World War I soldier.
Uh-huh.
But in reality, time is using a weakness there to come in and manipulate him to bring up resentment, to feed on the power, to bring in more ghosts, to generate more resentment and feed off that. And Sapphire and Steel have to fix this. And remembering it's a kid show, it was really designed to be an adult show.
Yeah.
But ITV didn't realize it. So they budgeted it from the children's department and put it out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon just as the kids were coming off. So we were sort of looking at the show, giving it, what the hell is this? Because it was very intellectual, way over our heads, and very, very creepy for 5 o'clock. And in the railway station one, the way they solved it in the end, they were losing the battle against time. So in order to make it go away, they had to give it a big dose of resentment. So they killed the ghost hunter and fed him to time before he was supposed to die. And that's how they did it.
And come on and have your biscuits and tea, kids.
That's your kids' program, yeah.
Wow.
Another classic one, a faceless monster that would trap people inside old photographs. He would take them, put them in photographs, and there was one particular part where he trapped one person in there and then set fire to the photograph, so the person burned to death in the photograph. Great children's TV
and
show.
This came on right after Barney episode, so it was perfect.
So, always been a favourite of mine because it was one that embedded itself into your head. Those shows never leave you because they totally creeped you out.
Especially at that age, that formative age.
Yeah, a 9-year-old child coming home from school watching that. It's,
Yeah, well, that's 9-year-old me watching the Night Stalker, you know? I mean, just good stuff. So. All right, do you have another one? Another
I'll also go then for UFO.
Yes.
Now, this was a Jerry Anderson
production.
Yes. And of course, Jerry Anderson, most people will know, and I will mention some of his shows later on, was probably known, first of all, for his puppet shows like Thunderbirds.
But which, if you're not familiar, it's like Team America.
Right. Yeah. That was a direct parody
ripped it right off.
Yeah, brilliant. But he always wanted to do live action. The reason he was doing puppets is he didn't have the budget to make mega movies.
But he had the stories.
Yeah, he had the stories. And thanks to Thunderbirds, he developed a great technique for doing special effects. He's one of the best model workers going, his team. And finally, he got the budget to make live action, and that was UFO. So he got together with a US company as well, and his own production firm, and they got a mixture of US and British cast. It was filmed in Britain, and of course the budget was still there, so the secret headquarters of an agency that is saving the world from alien invaders is based on a studio lot, because it's actually underneath a studio, which is great, because that means they could use their own studio lot as the cover. So, hey, there's all our scenes, for our headquarters. Brilliant. And for a spin-off effect as well, he was very good at marketing. So they liked to have like the space interceptors that would try and take the UFOs out as they were heading towards Earth. Then you had the skydiver submarine that would be floating through, and it would have a ship that could shoot off and try and take it out in the atmosphere. Then the mobiles, which are like tanks that could then try and take them out on the ground. And all these things could be sold to kids for Christmas.
There you go.
But again, for a kid show, very creepy, because when you analyze it, the purpose of the aliens was made very clear. They're coming to Earth to kidnap humans, and they're actually removing their internal organs to transplant into themselves to extend their lives, because they're a sterile race. So,
yeah, that wouldn't bother kids at all.
Yeah, so you've just gone from Thunderbirds, the puppet show, to organ transplant.
There you go.
Brilliant.
Waking up in a bathtub with no organs.
But you're there for the hot moon base girls, and you're there for the special effects and the explosions and the aliens. It's so that was
starting off strong, man. Starting off strong.
And those are just my honorable mentions.
I know. I have 2 honorable mentions, but in the spirit of this being my show, they're not TV series.
Okay.
They're just 2 British sci-fi films that, well, one is British. I'm going to start there. And if you don't know it, then welcome to the show. I don't know how you found us, but I'm talking about Life Force.
I love that movie.
I love that movie so much. And yes, there is a hot naked space vampire through a good part of it.
Matilda May.
But aside from that, just literally...
There's more to it than that.
I knew I found a compadre. It is so friggin' creepy. You know, you've got Toby Hooper, you know, Texas Chainsaw, Poltergeist guy, directing a space vampire movie. And just the effects were like very pre-J.J. Abrams flares and flashes. And then you take the lore that we have of vampires, and now they're aliens instead. And then you get Patrick Stewart talking in Matilda May's voice.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, made me a little uncomfortable as a young man. But I digress. But it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. And it could have definitely been a TV series.
Oh, yeah, that really could have spun off. And like you say, the initial effects with the, what was it, the Churchill space shuttle heading into Halley's Comet, because they're there to investigate the comet, and then they discover that strange alien craft hidden inside the core. And just fantastic.
It was awesome. So my other one is also going to be from Great Britain, because, you know, I know. It is an Irish film from 2002 that could also have been made into a wonderful TV series. So you see where I'm still talking series, even though they're movies. It was called Reign of Fire.
I don't know that one.
You don't know this one? Oh, so it has Sadiq Al-Fadil in it, Dr. Bashir.
Right.
And it has Matthew McConaughey and several others. So basically, it takes place where... The first of the movie takes place where there's some kids playing underground, and basically they awaken a dragon, a real, honest-to-God dragon. And then it comes out into England, into London, I think it is, and then we jump forward a few years, 5 years, 10 years, where the whole of England is ravaged by dragons. And so the survivors have encamp themselves in the castles. Obviously, that's a great place, you know, to defend it. And they have, you know, the helicopters and the airships that are trying to, and they're basically losing the war. And so they have to work together with other groups.
How did I miss this?
I don't know, but you should find it, because not only is Dr. Bashir an utter badass in this movie, you know, you've got Matthew McConaughey, who shows up as the Texas American Army dude. And it's really, really good. And it could have spawned into its own series as well.
It sounds like it's screaming for a TV series.
But this was back in 2002. Wow. It's never been touched again. So, Reign of Fire.
I will add that to my watch list. I will dig that up from somewhere.
Awesome. Okay, well, speaking of your list, we've honorably mentioned our honorable mentions. So let's hear what your number 5 favorite.
Ooh, number 5. So number 5, I'm going for classic show, Blake 7.
Ah, see, that could have been your number 7 if it went to that list.
That's right. So, yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's one of those niche shows, probably not that well known over here in the States, though I do believe PBS ran
They
it
did.
as well.
PBS played it, and they played Red Dwarf, and they played Doctor Who. So
Right.
I do have a cursory knowledge of that show.
And Blake 7 was like Doctor Who classic on an even lower budget, which takes
Cool
some
weapons,
doing.
though.
It's cool weapons, but what I liked about it, though, it was meant as a more adult version of Doctor Who. So Doctor Who was your family viewing. Terry Nation, who invented the Daleks, is the guy who wrote Blake 7.
Okay.
So he came up with that as a more adult-orientated show. And of course, it's the battle of freedom fighters versus the Federation, so against government. So, but the big question is, is a freedom fighter a freedom fighter? Is a freedom fighter a terrorist? So is Blake a hero? Is he a terrorist at heart?
Right.
Because Avon, his number one sort of nemesis on the ship, who would never agree with him, Avon would clash with him at times because Blake, just to fill you in on the idea if you've never seen it before, Blake is an ex-freedom fighter who was captured, brainwashed, instructed to tell everyone how wonderful the Federation government is, and then released back into society with no memory of what he did before. Unfortunately, they're going to have another rebellion, so they try and recruit him. The rebels all get killed. He gets captured in the process. His memories come back. They're going to export him to Cygnus Alpha to get rid of him. While he's on the way there, there's a space battle. He manages to get off the ship with some of the criminals that are on the ship. They get hold of the Liberator, which is that beautiful ship up there. And he's going to go back to his old habits of kicking Federation bottom as hard as he can and free the world so that people can be who they are again. Avon is the computer programmer, an absolute cynic in the group. He was trying to embezzle a bank. He's not really interested in this. Avon just wants to live. Avon wants to make a few bucks along the way if he can. And he is quite happy to point out to Blake that who is Blake to say what people really need or want.
Okay.
And even points out at one point where Blake is going to destroy a thing called Star One that controls all the computers that look after the climates on multiple planets. Points out if Blake destroys Star One, it's going to destroy the climate control on all these planets and people are going to die. And Blake's like, yeah, but it's the price of freedom. And Avon's like, who are you to kill these people? And that's where you start to question Blake and say, is he really the hero after all?
Right.
I mean, the Federation's bad, don't get me wrong. It's like any government, big government. Nobody likes big government. But is Blake, as the hero, trying to thrust his ideas on everyone else any better?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a very good show because of that. And they let you pick your sides. Nobody says, oh, this is left wing, this is right wing. They don't tell you who's who. It's up to you. You can play them either way you want.
That's amazing.
And that's good writing.
Yeah,
when it's down to you.
Wow. And am I correct that the core stayed the same, but the 7, other members would come and go throughout this?
Yeah, and even the ships would come and go.
Yeah,
So, originally you had the Liberator, and then after 3 series, that ship was destroyed, and they ended up with the Scorpio.
The Scorpio.
Blake even disappeared after series 2. Didn't come back until right for the grand finale, where he ends up shot by Avon, because Avon thinks he's been betrayed by Blake, and he hasn't, and realizes too late after he's put about 12 rounds into him and blood's flying everywhere. When people die, cast members die. That's another thing, for as kids watching it, you got your heroes. Gan was the first one, gets crushed by a ton of rubble. You're like, oh God, they've just killed one of our guys. And
it's not Hollywood. He doesn't pop up that he was hiding over behind a tree. He's dead.
Yeah, Jenna ends up dead somewhere. Callie ended up blown up down in Terminal. So if they needed to get rid of people, let's kill them and let's recruit another one. Bring them in.
Wow, Blake 7. I like that one. That's a good one.
And, that show influenced other shows then. So I think we'd already mentioned Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm. We talked about it before.
And that was an influence on the writing of that show because the writer behind that...
Terry Larson? Oh, well, the writer was...
Babylon 5. Why
are you doing this to me?
I know, my mind always goes back.
Phillips?
Oh, he's got a
Michael?
Zingle. What's it?
I'm going to write it right here in post. You'll find it there.
We'll pick it up later. So anyway, he liked the idea of the whole show having a beginning and an end, and that's why he ended up writing his Babylon 5 story arc. And strange thing was...
J. Michael Straczynski.
Thank you, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, we got it.
I think it was Battlestar Galactica. I don't know.
And the funny thing was, when he collected a Sci-Fi award for that on stage, they paid Gareth Thomas, who played Blake in it, to present him with the award. And he came on stage dressed in his full Blake costume to present him with the award.
That is awesome.
And then, of course, there's an Australian show called Farscape, which doesn't even pretend not to be Blake Seven. Again... It's
Blake Seven with Muppets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another fun, brilliant show to watch if you've never watched Farscape.
Yeah, that's a great one. Well, my number 5, it's a small show. You've probably never heard of it. It was called Space 1999. And we're laughing because the second
It happens to be my number 2.
So I'm laughing because on his second day he wore the Space 1999 uniform, and he has all the cool. He has the gun, and he has the little communicate, all of the cool stuff. So if you're not familiar with the show, basically it's about the challenges that are faced by the inhabitants of Moonbase Alpha, which was a research center on the moon, which stored all the nuclear waste. Which, what a great place to put it.
Yeah.
And then the moon blows up, and this base and some of the Eagles, the ships, are cast into the...
Got a nice one right over there.
See that? And you're going to see all of that stuff on the Complete Disarray episode. So anyway, I know that you're very familiar with this one. It's your number 2. Well, I'm going to stop there. And when we get to number 2, I'm going to let you expound on it.
Okay.
So anyway, that's my number 5 is Space 1999. So, Darren, what is your number 4?
Ooh, okay. What was my number 4? My number 4 was, I'm going Jerry Anderson again with Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds are a go.
So, all right. So I'm going to go back to the puppet shows because, Jerry Anderson started off on black and white TV. When I was a kid, I'm 4 years old. This was, an actual color show because I grew up with black and white TV. I remember getting a color TV when I was 4 years old, and the transformation from black and white to color was amazing. But you'd still end up, courtesy of the BBC, with a lot of black and white shows.
Right.
Even though you know how to color TV. Thunderbirds was in color. And Jerry Anderson made this masterpiece of a show, and there's all the explosions and the ships. I mean, Thunderbird 1 blasting off, dashing to wherever the disaster was going to be, because they're there to solve and rescue people. So he goes out and checks them out. Then he radios back and tells Virgil, "Okay, I need Thunderbird 2 with all the rescue pods." And you'd have all these pods go by with different equipment, and he'd pick the right pod that would load into Thunderbird 2, and then that would tear off and go and rescue them. Thunderbird 3 could do stuff in space. Thunderbird 4 was their little submarine, which Thunderbird 2 carried and dropped into the ocean. And Thunderbird 5 was where they kept that really popular brother of theirs in orbit and never let him back to Earth. So don't know what
with the BO.
Yeah, but I don't know what that guy had ever done to them or whatever. Perhaps he'd been inappropriate to Tintin or whatever, and they never let him back. So he's stuck on the space station.
One strike and that's it, up to space.
But each show was a masterpiece. I mean, it was a movie. He made individual movies, and they were brilliant. Brilliant equipment, character detail, and you forgot you were watching puppets.
Right.
That was the best thing about it.
And just to make the distinction, it's true marionettes, wooden dolls that are moved around. In the U.S., we didn't have a lot of that. We actually had puppets where you stuck your hand in and moved them around,
Yeah, it's very, How exactly did the hand get inside these puppets?
You know what? This was the 70s, so we don't talk about it much. But to see this show and to see these, I mean, there are people basically walking around. It was its own thing for us, for sure.
And the moving eyes and the fact that you could get different expressions. And you'd swear blind that, the faces would change. And they would, because they had different heads that they would put on for shots. So every character had, a range of expressions, limited as they were, and then the angles that they would use to film them. There was a lot of electronics in them, so they were lip synced. The person supplying the voice on the microphone was actually causing the mouth to move, which is why you got a proper lip sync instead of just something going flap, flap, flap. It was actually moving in time to the voice. So he invented a lot of techniques on puppeteering that were way ahead of its time.
Yeah, probably still used today.
And let's face it, we all fancied Lady Penelope. She was kind of cute.
If this wasn't a kid's show, I would make some comment about Wood, but I'm not. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer my number 4, which we've already discussed. It's a match, Blake 7.
Right.
So I actually, sitting here, having you tell me that story, I don't think I was really in, and we call them seasons. So I don't think I was really in on the first season because I don't remember a lot of the brainwashing and stuff like that. For me, it was kind of more like, I think I watched what must have been season 2, and then he was gone, and then I remember the Liberator, the first ship, blowing up. And I think that's probably what I did, is watch seasons 2 or 3.
Right.
But I can't say anything more than what you said, because it did. And I'll tell you, though, one thing I will add is that along the lines, when I watched Firefly, have you ever seen that?
Yes.
It gave me shades of Blake 7.
Yeah, another one that probably owes a lot to that show as well.
Yeah.
And you probably, because the start of Blake 7 is a bit of a slow burn. So that might have been why you missed it, because it really isn't that interesting. It's one of those things, when I rewatch the show, you've got to grind your teeth and get through them, because it sets up the storyline. So yeah, it's him being captured, like I said. And here's another thing for a show that kids are watching, which was unusual at the time. What do they frame him for, to send him to Cygnus Alpha? They set him up as a paedophile. The Federation takes kids from a school, brainwashes them into believing that they've been with Blake, and then he's going into the courtroom thinking that they're getting him for the rebellion. Yeah. And then the charges against him are indecency with minors. And he's like, what? Where the hell did that happen?
Wow. And then he's got witnesses.
And
they have witnesses.
Well, it's embedded in their mind, so the kids believe it. But then his lawyers, he's got 2 lawyers, man and a woman, and they do some background investigation. They find the medical records of these kids being taken out of school, go into this treatment center, and they're like, oh, here it is. Yeah. But before they can get Blake off the shuttle going to Cygnus Alpha, the Federation finds out that they're onto them, so they kill him. So Blake's shuttle takes off, and he's like, well, I guess my lawyers didn't make it. Then you find his 2 lawyers there in a big puddle of blood.
Wow.
So it's very dark.
Yeah.
Start to that show.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on. All right. So then now we're at our number 3. And I'm going to be interested to find out if because there is not a huge field of British sci-fi. So I know there's going to be some crossovers, but just in our discussions, I think that there's a couple that are going to show up that aren't on mine. Okay, so my number 3, we're going to be talking Red Dwarf. There you go, sir. A brilliant show. Brilliant. I mean, a lot of people swear blind they were there from episode 1, and I will be one of those people. Really? I actually saw it. It was a obscure BBC 2 show at the time. Okay. How many BBCs were there? When I was a kid, 2. 2, okay, 1 and 2. Yeah, and that was so we had 3 networks. Okay. So you had 3 channels to IT? Yeah, you basically had BBC 1, BBC 2, and ITV. Okay. And that was it. And then back in the 80s, they came out with Channel 4. Okay. And Channel 4, best thing I remember them from is they reran The Prisoner. Oh, okay. Which is how I found The Prisoner afterwards. It had been... okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us, but that when you were saying that earlier, are there still only 2 BBCs? Oh, and now they've got streaming channels, kid versions of it. It's taken off, and that's where all their budget goes. That's where they keep telling people they need more license fee money, because now they've got 10 million channels. All right, but back to Red Dwarf. So back to Red Dwarf. So it was an obscure little program that started off. They didn't know whether it would get picked up or not. Just a rough idea by Grant and Naylor Productions.
But I loved sci-fi, and I loved comedy, especially like Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sort of stuff. So watching it, I enjoyed it. It made me laugh. I liked Rimmer being that pedantic, nitpicking, yeah, exactly, you know. Lister the slob coming from Liverpool, you know, and failed art student. And, you know, and the fact that they weren't like in Star Trek, these ultra clean officers. They were the chicken machine vending repairmen, you know, right at the bottom. Exactly, you know. And the lack of a budget and effects didn't bother me because, hell, I grew up on Doctor Who. So
right, and Star Trek.
Yeah,
the original Star Trek.
I looked at the scripts, and the scripts were funny. They made me laugh. And, you know, season 1 and 2, if I'm introducing Red Dwarf to somebody, I tend to skip seasons 1 and 2 just because they're hard to go in. I'll go straight for season 3 because that's where their budget exploded.
That's where they had the female Holly. Was that 3?
Yes, and, you know, Starbug came into it, and it really stepped up a notch.
Right,
so what I do is I tell people to jump in at season 3,
smart.
and then they can actually go back and perhaps appreciate the darkness.
Fill it in a little bit.
Of 1 and 2.
That's very smart.
But and of course they're about to make 3 new episodes of Red Dwarf, and they'll be coming out.
I heard that.
Hopefully at the end of the year or early next year.
We recently did an episode where I had 3 guests. So it was 4 of us all discussing our favorite Red Dwarfs. Joey, Cam, Sully, and Joey's lovely wife. God, I'm going to maybe edit this if I did it wrong. Erin. So we'll see. But a lot of fun. So many good episodes. And especially as they went later on into the series and they started doing the time travel and you had the multiverse with Ace Rimmer, for example. Oh, God,
Ace is a classic.
Ace, oh, my God.
Smoke me a kipper. I'll be back for breakfast. Yeah.
So excellent choice. I dig that one.
And as I mentioned as well, you know, I think that had a knock-on effect because that allowed shows like Hyperdrive and Orville. I think once you got a successful sci-fi comedy, you know, people looked to try and gain traction on that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And again, those 2 shows specifically, especially for me, Orville. Like I said, I watched a little bit, but of Hyperspace. But for me, Orville is just like it's a perfect mix. It really does. I'm really surprised it never hasn't gotten that huge backing that so many shows of lesser quality seem to get. So, okay, well, my number 3 is going to be, it is probably stretching the boundaries of what sci-fi may be considered, but I'm choosing it, and it is the story of Sam Tyler on Life on Mars. Okay, now you may be familiar that there is, you like it? That's a good one?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So
I like the British version.
I was fixed to say there was an American version with God, it's not Cam, I don't know, but it's one of these actors. But after enjoying it, then I found out, it was based on a British one, so I went back and found it. And so it's a great story about a Grand Manchester police officer who is hit by a car while on duty in 2006 and wakes up back in 1973 as an officer there. He becomes a detective inspector and he works with detective DCI. What is DCI?
Detective
Commander?
Detective
I got it.
Yep, you got me.
So DCI Gene Hunt.
I'll have to call my family who work for the police in Britain. Hey, what's DCI?
So it's a great story because is Sam dead? Is he in a coma and is thinking of all of this stuff, or has he actually time traveled? Yeah. And if you like the show, I just learned there's a follow-up.
Ashes to Ashes.
Ashes to Ashes. So I'm going to put that on my list.
You've got to watch Ashes to Ashes. And the beauty of Ashes to Ashes is it wraps everything up at the end. So you discover everything about Gene Hunt and what's been going on. So it gives you a final conclusion to the story.
It takes place in the 80s.
And in the 80s.
Yeah, baby.
And also instead of Sam Tyler, it's a female police officer now that's moved. And she is gorgeous.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the interactions, I mean, Sam and Gene were a great
Yes.
duo to bounce off each other. Her and Gene as well. I mean,
Yeah.
she gives as good as he gets. I mean, he is the
That's awesome.
male chauvinistic pig,
Yeah.
to
And again,
her.
that's the same, the DCI Gene Hunt from the first show.
Exactly.
He now works with her.
That's right.
That's awesome. So,
So,
all right.
good.
Well, thank you. This is the part where we're going to take a quick break here, and
more beer?
you can definitely top off. I'm still good. I'm editing later, so no. Just kidding. So I love the fact that this whole place in here.
I hope the cuckoo clocks.
How did you do all of this? This is just amazing.
Okay, so what happened was you see behind you the snooker table, the 12 foot by 6 foot monstrosity of a table there. So any of you that play pool, this thing will drive you nuts because it's 12 foot long, 6 foot wide, and it's a totally different game called snooker. Look it up on YouTube. It's more tactical.
Okay.
I used to play that as a kid back in Britain. I used to be a member of a snooker club. And it's always been my dream all my life to have one day my own snooker table. And then we were living in Moss Bluff down the road, and my wife and I decided we wanted to build our final retirement home,
Gotcha.
which is what this place is out here. And the house plans had 2 double car garages on it. We're like, well, we only need 1 double car garage. She was like, oh yes, we'll lop that off and save some money. I was like, no. What we will do is we will turn that into my man cave. So we walled in where the cars would normally come, and I had this bright idea to turn it into a British pub. And I knew this British carpenter over here, Martin Hebden, and he did the majority of the woodwork.
So a British carpenter built your British pub.
An English carpenter, a master carpenter, as he liked to call himself.
Wow.
So yeah, all this stuff you're looking around, he put this in. My friend Harry painted the walls. And then I do have a site called Lanchbury Arms on Facebook, and if you scroll back 12 years, you see this thing slowly changing as stuff goes up on the walls. People donate stuff like the flags on the ceilings, hanging the drinks, the glasses came later, the sports memorabilia, it all builds up. And so this is the accumulation of 12 years of making a British pub.
It is awesome. It's not quite the slaughtered lambs, but
don't go out on
that's a
the
good
walls.
thing.
But this is where we come to watch Premier League soccer. So I've got a bunch of football fanatics here.
I was going to say soccer. That's what football. That's what it is.
Yeah. So yesterday there was a bunch of people in here. We were all drinking heavily, watching Premier League soccer on TV.
Did your team win?
I can't remember. I drank too much. Doesn't matter as long as you're drinking.
You won.
Yeah. So, but that's what we do, and that's what this place does. And it's great because it means I can sit here and drink, and then they have to worry about going home, and I can just crawl off to my bed finally and go to sleep.
Are you familiar with a song called "We're Gonna Hire a Wino"?
No.
Okay, it's a country song. I'm going to have to play it for you.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you anything else about it, but remind me before we leave. Okay.
That's a deal.
So we are going to show you some pictures of stuff as we talk. It may flash up later in when I do it in post-production. So as we talk about things, he has what you may see as a huge collection in the back about all kind of sci-fi, but mostly British, that he brought out for me. I'm sure there's a lot more. But saying that, I think if you're ready, I would love to jump back and hear what your penultimate choice is. Okay? But you have to look at the screen and you have to go, penultimate.
Oh, right.
So you say,
Are we really down to that?
down to your number 2.
Oh, my number 2. Oh, my number 2. Okay, so my penultimate choice, which has already been mentioned, Space 1999.
I thought it was going to be your number 1. I really did.
It was close, but the other one's got some more emotional ties because it ran longer.
Okay.
But we'll get to that later.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, so what? Well, that's right, because I didn't give too much about it. But tell us more about.
And Space 99 really is 2 shows, really, in one, because there's season 1 and season 2.
True.
And they are very, very different. Now, season 1 of Space 1999 was originally going to be season 2 of UFO, which I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, that was a joint production between Jerry Anderson in the UK and the US. And it started off very strong, it got good viewing figures, but then it kind of petered off. So the US backers sort of turned around and they looked at what the people liked about the show, and they were like, we don't really like these earthbound stories. You know, they like stuff set in space more. We want to see more of the moon base and more of the aliens in space and all that. So Jerry Anderson went away and he started working things out, and that's where he came up with this idea of, let's have this bigger moon base now.
Right.
And we're going to blow the damn thing out of Earth's orbit, you know, with this nuclear explosion going off, and then basically they can have adventures as they fly through space.
Right.
And it became UFO was a dark show. Space 99 season 1 was also very, very dark because they were fighting for survival, limited resources, looking for a home, and encountering what they would hope would be something they could use or settle on, only to discover, no, it wasn't. And, you know, I had some brilliant shows. One that a lot of people remember was Dragon's Domain, the big tentacle monster with the big eye. That sticks in people's minds. And again, as a little kid, because Space 99, 1977, 78, I'm 9 years old. That thing is sucking in, it's putting tentacles on people's necks, pulling them in, feeding them into its mouth. They disappear inside, and there's all this roaring noise, and then it spits out a dried husk that's still steaming. And they're like, okay, kids program, brilliant. Another one where this blue light takes over this guy, and he needs to then absorb energy. So he's walking around, and he sees technician Hillary Preston, and he needs her heat energy, so he goes up and puts his hands on her and freezes her to death. And also one of his buddies as well. So he's going around just stalking people, killing them.
Yeah, dude's got to eat.
They find a hollowed out asteroid with this alien inside, and he turns out to be the S&M master of the universe. So he's coming down and he wants to inflict pain and suffering on everyone in any way, shape or form he can.
Wow. And playing Barry Manilow if he has to.
Yeah. So a lot of great, and of course they had some great guest stars. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Joan Collins. Oh, the one with Joan Collins' legs, you know.
Yeah. And of course, it had Martin Landau to begin with.
Brilliant actor, and his wife Barbara Bain.
But who was the female with the very severe haircut? Am I crossing it over with UFO?
Oh, you're thinking of the purple-haired ones? Yeah, that was UFO.
That was UFO.
Where
Okay.
The moon base operatives
I'm not too far
had them.
off.
Yeah. But, of course, they came from Mission Impossible. That was, again, to get some US figures. Let's have some established US actors in this. And Martin Landau had a lot of input into those scripts, which I think is why it was so good at the time. But it was the most expensive sci-fi show being made at the time.
Yeah.
It was
It was up against like Battlestar Galactica. I guess Buck Rogers was 78.
Yeah, so I think $6 million Man had probably started around there as well. So, it was fighting for its slot. But like I say, it was less fun than those shows. It was really one to make you think. And when it came for renewal from season 1, they decided, the American backers, that they didn't want to spend the same amount of money. So they brought in Fred Friedberger from the one who made the last season of Star Trek, the original show.
Okay.
The really cheap-looking, nasty one that the fans kind of really didn't like. So they brought him in to produce season 2 of Space 99, and he tried to turn that into season 5 of Star Trek in a way. So he brings in a shape-shifting alien, which... loved the actress to death, Catherine Schell. She's a lovely, lovely lady, very good looking. Probably did help some of the viewing figures a bit. But he got rid of some of the more beloved figures like Professor Bergman, Paul Morrow. They disappeared without any explanation.
Then that drives a fan mad.
And
even back then, I mean, now we're really, really cognizant of what's going on with characters and where they're going. Back then, people would disappear and it'd be like, okay. But tell us what happened.
Yeah.
Show a shuttle blow up.
Yeah, exactly. Just tell us, Victor was an old guy. Did he pass away? Have a memorial service or something. Put a little picture of him on the wall.
Right.
Paul Morrow was the second in command, but suddenly they replace him with this Italian guy called Tony, who makes his own brew, and he's trying to shag the alien all the time.
Was he put up on Thunderbird 5? We might see a pattern here.
So, there was a lot of change. And the sets became smaller and, cheaper. Cheaper. They got rid of the big main mission set, and suddenly they had the command center, which would have fitted inside this games room instead. And
which is your next addition to the house.
And the scripts became very kiddie-like. They really dumbed down the whole thing, and everything had to end with a happy ending, And I don't mean a nice happy ending. I mean, cheerful people, with a little joke, ha ha ha, and it just did not match series 1.
Yeah.
So, is it watchable? Yes, it's sci-fi, and there's still the good effects. Is it as good as series 1? No, it's a totally different show, and I preferred the darker aspects of the original.
Wow, that is a great summation there, sir. And I didn't realize why the two were so different. That's kind of like how Buck Rogers went. I mean, Buck Rogers went, and then all of a sudden you have the Searcher, and then Hawk shows up, and it's all kind of okay, but it's such a huge difference from the last season to this season.
Yeah, they tried to turn it once again into Star Trek. They wanted just to shoot them off into space, and I mean, they did give Erin Gray a more leggy showing outfit, made her look more like a
space
flight attendant. Oh God, yeah.
I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
but yeah, it was again changed the show dramatically.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna come off of that with my. You ready? Penultimate choice. You have to do it together. Penultimate choice. Right. With a show that changes not every series or season, but every episode.
Okay.
My number 2 favorite is Black Mirror.
Haven't seen it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Fave.
Right. Black Mirror, you say? So it's about a mirror?
It's about multiple mirrors. Okay, wow. Do you have Netflix?
No.
Okay, that's why, because it's only on Netflix right now. Okay, so Black Mirror is a British science fiction anthology series that was created by Charlie Brooker. It goes really into technology and its consequences. And so a lot of what each episode has to do, it will be with even something current or some things made up. It was on Channel 4. And then later it's on Netflix. And it has 7 series, and there's only 33 episodes total. Okay. And then it has an interactive movie in it called Baldersnatch, I think. So this one is interesting about a guy who finds an older, Oregon Trail, the old text video game. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that. Bandersnatch, I think it's called. And as you're watching the film, he gets to places, and it literally comes up on the screen, and it says, do you want to do A or do you want to do B?
Okay.
And you select which one you want. And so throughout the movie, you're doing a find your own destiny type thing, and you come to the end, and then you've got that movie. Well, if you go back and watch it again and choose other things, it gives you a whole different outcome. Really interesting. Really well done, but at the end you're kind of like, okay, that was fun. What else we got? Okay. So I'm going to lay out the very first episode to you. Okay, and you'll really like this. The very first episode is called National Anthem, and it's about Princess Susanna, a member of the British royal family, is kidnapped. The kidnapper demands that the Prime Minister performs a sexual act,
as they do,
with a pig on live TV. And
So it's a documentary.
so they start to do all of this different stuff to not only try to find the kidnapper and princess, but then maybe to come up with, if we can't do anything else, how do we fake this? Okay. And it goes horribly wrong. They end up, I want to say they send a finger to prove that they have her. So at the very end, the prime minister has no other choice but to go on live TV and film this,
Right.
not knowing that like 20 minutes earlier, the kidnapper had released her on her own.
So he had to have sex with Rosie O'Donnell on TV.
Okay.
You're going to have to edit that bit.
That stays in there. So,
We love you, Rosie. I saw that movie where you were on that island in the leather kit. You look great.
no, she did not.
No, she didn't. But I'm trying to save myself from a lawsuit.
So I say all of that because that is the first introduction to Black Mirror.
Okay.
And you were like, what the hell am I watching? Mm-hmm. And then I think the next episode is maybe Haley Atwell, whose fiance or maybe husband is killed. And they create they introduce to her a website, an app, that will take all of her significant others' social media posts and emails and puts it all, and creates an AI. Mm-hmm. And then as that goes on, then it creates, like, you can see them in a screen. And then they clone a body and put it into the body, and basically her dead husband shows back up. But of course it's not her dead husband, because as you go through it, you realize social media is all of the good stuff that you want people to know and not the bad things.
All right.
Okay, so then I think that was the second episode. But anyway, it goes on and on and on. And then one of my favorites is called the USS Callister, okay, which is about a multiplayer game called Infinity, led by a CEO. And he has gone around and taken samples, like DNA samples, from people in the office, okay? Then you feed that into a computer and it creates an avatar. And then you put yours on and you're in that with all those people who you at that point now control what they do.
Right.
Okay? And it's basically, the USS Callister is the USS Enterprise. Okay? And it's done very well. And so now you start getting into, and of course he does very inappropriate things with, not just sexual things, but with people that they're in the office, for example, that he can't stand. He uses, makes them do all of these things. And so it brings up, you're basically creating digital slaves. And do these creatures have any form of their own freedom? And it was very, very, very well done. And they're actually, I just saw that it's supposed to be coming out. It may have come out across the pond over there. Called it's a sequel called USS Callister Into Infinity, where it breaks from VR into real life. So I'm really, really interested to see that. Okay. So every episode is something different. One of them is about a world where you live by likes. And so if you do something in public, you literally have like an indicator. And I want to say they did that same thing on Orville at one point. And if your likes get to be too bad, they take you away and reprogram you or something. So don't have Netflix, but if you have some way to get it off Channel 4, it is a really, really, really well done anthology. Lots of guest stars show up, both English, American actors. John Hamm is in an episode. There's an episode about where you can go back in your own mind with a chip and see the last hour or the last day, and people can use it in, like defense against themselves or, proving. So it's lots and lots and lots of things around technology. and its consequences. So, well, I'm glad I was able to surprise you because I didn't think I'd bring anything in here that you weren't familiar with.
Great. I'm going to be writing these down because while I'm at work, I'll like to binge watch things in the evenings there.
Yeah, and there's only 30. I think I said 33 episodes, and you watch it if you're interested, but watch it last. The movie is, like I said, it just. Everything is there. You ever had a meal where all the ingredients are there and they're perfect, and you put them together and you eat it, and you're kind of like, That's how that movie makes me feel. So anyway, all right, Mr. Darren, Pubmaster Darren, we are now at your absolute favorite British sci-fi series.
Okay, well,
give it to me.
Doctor Who.
Who?
Doctor Who.
He's a what?
Hey, it's Doctor, apparently. Yeah, so I've got to go for this. And I probably so cliched, we've got he's picked Doctor Who, doesn't everyone? But it's what I grew up on.
Right.
So it's ingrained in me throughout all my childhood, so that I can't get away from it. Now, the problem with Doctor Who is it's run for so long, it's changed.
Right.
So Doctor Who to me is still the classic era.
Okay.
Tom Baker probably be my absolute
That's the only
favorite.
right answer.
Yeah. The new stuff now, I've gone off it. I think it's more orientated towards children, or perhaps it's the fact that I'm older. It just doesn't have the same thing. But still a fan of the classic stuff. Because when my earliest memories are prior to Tom Baker, John Pertwee.
Okay.
He was my first Doctor, and
he was the older gentleman, right?
That's right, with curly hair.
Okay.
He's more famous for the one with the maggots. People remember the giant maggots.
Okay.
And I got one of his companions' autographs there on the wall.
All right.
But that's where we started off, and they were with colour. John Pertwee was the first colour Doctor.
Okay. That's important.
In 1970, which ties in because I was born in '68. So about 1973, 74, that's probably where you start enjoying shows and recognising them. But Tom Baker, I remember him in 1974 replacing John Pertwee, and I remember thinking, "You can't do this. This is." He was like an uncle, you can't get rid of John Pertwee.
Unbeknownst to you, that's how it happens.
And they're bringing in this imposter, and of course the first episode, I was like, "Oh, this is." It wouldn't have been bollocks back then. This is terrible, I can't get into this. And it took until that second episode, Ark in Space, where he's got the giant wasps that are trying to lay their eggs inside the humans.
As they do.
Suspended animation. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, this guy is brilliant. And then he became my favourite Doctor from that point onwards. And I kept on watching it. After him, Peter Davison. Peter Davison was fun, and a lot of good stories. Colin Baker. Script writing and the budget had gone downhill by that time, so I think the show was beginning to suffer. It was looking more like a pantomime, if you're familiar with those. It was more like a stage show, and they were camping it up a bit. Sylvester McCoy really, really went downhill on the first season. But then just as they sort of turned it around and started to make it darker again, they cancelled it. And then we had the Paul McGann movie come back. And that looked like it had a lot of potential, but of course didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then we had to wait then until RTD brought in New Who with Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and for me it kind of finished there.
Oh, okay.
That's where I basically stopped watching. I watched the occasional episode. It just doesn't grip me anymore. But that was my show as a kid. And the two Dalek movies, which people forget about, with Peter Cushing.
Yes.
Yeah, which were basically the first two black and white Dalek stories from William Hartnell's days in the 60s, but in glorious Technicolor and on the big screen, widescreen, with a budget. And
popcorn and everything.
Yeah, and they were fun. And I honestly thought Peter Cushing was the first Doctor Who for ages, because I didn't know any better. And it was only when you started to get, because BBC never repeated Doctor Who.
Right.
So like you missed an episode, that was it. That was gone.
Stuff.
Yeah, and you didn't have VHS when I was a kid. So, and then they started releasing books, Target paperbacks. And when you collected them, suddenly I was like, oh my God, there's all these adventures I never knew about. And the first one was And there was one between him and John Pertwee. There was one I completely knew nothing about.
Yeah, yeah.
And the beauty of the books is that you actually got to enjoy perhaps how good the scripts were, because you weren't hindered by the budget constraints and the effects.
Your sets were in your head.
Yeah, exactly. So you really did get to enjoy them a lot more and realize just what they were trying to achieve with so little money in those days.
Yeah, yeah. And I started watching it in the Tom Baker days, and I just thought it was brilliant. You know, I loved his mannerisms. Again, I mean, it was foreign to me, not just literally foreign, but it was foreign to me that way. And it would come on Saturday nights, and we'd watch it on PBS. And I want to say I watched it in black and white for at least a couple of years because the color TV was in the front. And so we had gotten a spare one or something from someone, and you know, that's how I watched everything was that I wanted to watch was that way. But I can't fault you at all, because it is a show of many shows, because you do feel different. The one thing that I love is one of the more recent Doctors, and I can't remember which one, but he was in the movie World War Z. At the very end, I think it's
Peter Capaldi.
I think it's Peter Capaldi.
That's right.
And he plays a doctor in there, okay, without a name. So you're familiar with this?
Yeah, I thought it was funny when I spotted it.
Yeah. So when it rolls, it says he is a Who doctor, and then
so he works for the Who.
Yeah, and then next thing come out, he's a Doctor Who. So I always thought that was cool.
Yeah.
That was great. My number one is not Doctor Who. Okay. So if I had put like honorable mention TV shows, it would have been one of my honorable mentions. More so for me because I only really enjoyed the Tom Baker series. So if I'd have said what arcs were my favorite, I probably would have put that on there. But what I did put is my absolute favorite British sci-fi comedy show is Red Dwarf.
And I can't fault that.
It is so much fun. I even really like the older episodes. I mean, the more recent episodes, because you really get the feel that Lister and Kat and Rimmer, that they have literally grown with each
definitely.
other. You know?
They've gelled and become a team, even if they don't like to admit it.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if they don't still like each other sometimes. We've seen them. I mean, it started in 1988, and they're looking at putting another movie out or arc of 3 episodes here in 2025. So it's definitely got something lasting there. And not knowing the actors, I get surprised where I saw the Dave, the Lister guy. He's in Ghost Watchers. Is that the movie where it's like it was a documentary?
Yeah.
He's an outside reporter.
Yeah. I know the one you mean. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
And, Kat appears in a show called Death in Paradise.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
He's a cop in.
Yeah.
He was a cop on the island.
I didn't know that.
Quite a few times, yeah. And Rimmer, if you love comedies and you love British comedy humour, look for something called British Empire.
Okay.
And it's the Rimmer character, but he is in charge of a leisure centre, a health club leisure centre.
Okay.
But he is Arnold Rimmer. Right. So imagine Arnold Rimmer being given power to run a leisure centre and organise everything. And he just he thinks he's doing the best for everyone, but he is just causing chaos and destruction around him as he goes.
British. Okay.
Empire.
Awesome.
And you have got to check. And that ran for series after series after series, and he is brilliant.
I'll have to check that out because they're all great. Even Kachansky.
Which one?
True. Which one?
Seen 2 of them. Claire Grogan, who's actually a singer rather than an actress. Although she Gregory's girl. I think she was in a movie, at one point, a Scottish movie. But I actually like the second Kachansky.
Okay.
Because she was cute.
Yeah.
I can understand why Lister was chasing her. And then of course there was almost an American version.
I saw
And it was nearly Jazia Dax.
That's it. That's what I was going to say. It was the
cat.
Farrell.
It was going to be the cat.
Yeah.
Which would, to me, have been the biggest mistake ever. Once again, it shows the studio had no idea what it was about.
Right.
It was about the boys from the Dwarf stuck in space, looking to get home and looking to get laid and have a good time. To then make the cat a female figure.
Yeah.
And then make her absolutely gorgeous because Terry Farrell is like sizzling hot. Those guys aren't going to want to go anywhere. They're just going to spend every episode chasing her around.
And they had no idea.
Yeah. And they wonder why it cratered.
Had they wanted to do something, they could have made her the hologram, the Rimmer character, which would have added a whole nother level to them. Okay, now they've got this beautiful hologram that instead of making it hard, like you can't touch.
Right.
Bit
of frustration there for Lister, but he's still looking for something he can get his hands on.
Right, exactly. So no, I'm kind of glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure Terry would have been wonderful. I know you've met her.
Oh,
she's such a lovely woman.
She was.
Really is. So, well, I can't thank you enough for having us into the bar.
Oh, pleasure has been all mine.
For making this list and for sitting down and talking to us about it. Before we go, I want to give a quick shout out to Nick Pitara. He's got this amazing hardcover graphic novel called Axe Wielder John. It is out now. It's from...
it's a romance.
Oh, it is. It's about this guy with this huge slash in his face that goes around killing people with all these skulls on him, okay? And you think like he is just this really horrible bad guy who just can't be killed, who takes the monsters. I mean, it's got, the 12-eyed spiders that he fights and stuff.
Great artwork.
It really is. And then I'm not going to tell you the surprise ending, but it surprised the hell out of me. So again, it is it's Axe Wielder John, and it's Nick Pitara, and I'm going to put right down here where you can pick your copy of it up, and tell him Jamie from Fave 5 sent you. All right.
Brilliant.
So it was brilliant. I like that. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for being here and joining us for this episode of Fave 5 for Fans. We were thrilled to be here and hope you had a fantastic time. Yeah, because see, I did that. And if you like the show, please tell people about us. Like and subscribe. You can always give us that 5-star review if you don't have $5. I'll take the $5 and the... Anyway, your support means the absolute most best to us. We want to know what we're doing right. We want to know what we're doing wrong. So find us on social medias. We're on YouTube as well. And let us know what you think. Remember, new episodes come out every Friday, unless they don't. So be sure to subscribe and to follow us, catch all of the episodes. Remember, folks, it may not be the best, it may not be the most popular, but if it's your favorite, then it's good enough for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.